Everybody. Woo, I love that. Okay, let's do that thing again that we all know we do. I say good evening, then I'll say it again, you'll say it louder. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. I love that. Okay, cool. Hi. Welcome to Hops and Talks. Tonight's event is Decoding Prop 50, the nonpartisan forum that Fresno needs to hear. I'm Sebastian Artemani. I'm organizing tonight's event. Thank you all for coming out. Before I tell you a little bit about tonight and some of the housekeeping, I want to thank my volunteers that show up every week. Talisha Brantley, doing our AD, thank you. John Artemani, my beautiful husband over there, doing everything that's needed. And you helper today, Monty Forkas, who helped us coordinate all of our speakers today. Thank you, Monty. That's great. So here at Hops and Talks, we meet every second Tuesday of the month here at Tioga Sequoia. We get together to talk about the topics that are on your mind, that are relevant to Fresno. We try to do it with a local lens, but what's most important to us is that you leave with actionable knowledge about how to impact not only your community, but our larger nation and society as a whole. So, I'm really excited you came out tonight. If you're here to learn about Prop 50, you might be undecided on how to vote. You may know exactly how you're going to vote, but you want to learn more info, or maybe you're even an advocate for one of those sides. And my hope is that you can leave with some actionable talking points that you can share with your neighbors, your mom, your dad, your blue-haired granny, coworkers, whoever it is that needs to know a little bit more. Hopefully you can take some notes, leave us some screenshots maybe. If you want to take a picture of something, just let us know. We will have James Cuss, Fresno's County Clerk, being our primary speaker. Give him a round of applause. We'll bring him up in just a couple minutes. He is offering us a nonpartisan vote, or rather a nonpartisan approach to Prop 50. So this is the guy, if you have questions about Prop 50, if you're unclear about things after the presentation, we'll make some time to make sure you can ask those questions before I continue. We do a live survey every Hops and Talks event, so if you want to scan that QR code, it will take you to a 3-question survey. I think a few of you tried to access it and it wasn't live. It should be good to go now. It's really quick. It's questions that we will revisit after James's talk, and we'll sort of share the results all together. They're about Prop 50 and sort of voting ideas. So on Prop 50, if you're in, are you decided or undecided on your vote? We'll give it a few minutes to go through those. Something I didn't mention yet, but that's super important, is in the back corner there. This is really relevant to you, Monty. We have Monty there facilitating a voter section. So he's got some information on what your ballot looks like. If you are not registered to vote, if you want to check your voter registration or have any questions. You've had issues with your ballot. My signature sometimes gets flagged, so I'm going to talk to Monty about that later. And then I'm talking to James about it later too. I know, my signature always gets flagged. 2 years now. So I got to figure out how to fix that, and I've been a bad person in not doing it. So if you have any questions like that, Monty's in the back there with a full bunch of resources, and James could probably also take that question, right? Yeah. Okay. So in Prop 50, are you decided or undecided on your vote? We have a lot of votes in. We have 30 of 33 people. Where 4 are undecided, 8 are somewhat decided, they are leaning one way or the other. 15, so the vast majority are decided on their vote, and 3 have already voted. Good on you for already voting. I'm proud of you. Good job. We love voting. Okay, cool. So that's fantastic. So we know that we have an audience that largely knows where they want to vote. So I think that will also mean for our moderators, as we go through the talking, make sure we want to hit on how can we help you to help others get out there to vote, right? How can I get more comfortable talking to my neighbor or coworker or loved ones to say, hey, I think this is really important, and this is what I'd like to say. Something to think about in our breakout sessions. Okay, next question. So now you should have it available to you. In 1 or 2 sentences, describe what you think Prop 50 does. There are no wrong answers, and these are totally anonymous, right? So don't be embarrassed. Just in your own words, 1 or 2 sentences, what do you think this does? It's okay to say, I have no idea. I don't know. Someone dragged me here. I like beer. Those are all acceptable answers. Cool. As you guys fill some of these in, we started Hops and Talks almost 6 months ago because I was on my phone doom scrolling, nervous about the changing political landscape that was happening in front of me and worried about our society. And I realized I was saving resources and phone numbers and creating this index of things, and I was just doing it by myself, not talking to anyone. And I went out to my friends and asked, are you doing this too? Are you also scared and nervous and feel like you have to panic doom scroll all day long? And they were. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be great if we created a space where we got off of our phones, even though we're on our phones now, if we got off of our phones and sort of learned things together, because I think through education and knowledge, clarity comes about. So I just want to say thanks again for showing up today. Okay, so what do you think Prop 50 does? I'm going to read through a few of these. And let's see, makes the playing even, so it evens out the score. We have some don't knows. Creates more federal congressional seats for the Democratic Party. I think that's a fair assessment of an approach to what Prop 50 is trying to accomplish. Balances out power in the House. Blanks over Trump. Redistrict to have more congressional seats. Gives more representative districts without having to wait for the next census. Creates equity. Redistricts California. Yep, that's pretty direct. Redraw California district lines to favor Democrats in response to the Texas redrawing in favor of Republicans. That's interesting, right? I think we'll be able to talk about again, we're going to bring a nonpartisan sort of forum here together, but I think we'll talk a little bit about maybe what Newsom and California is doing strategically, maybe in response to Texas, sort of their approach and their reasoning. Gerrymanders the state to create 5 additional seats for Democrats and 5 less for Republicans to offset the mid-cycle gerrymandering in Texas. Very good reading comprehension. That's a very good summary. Good job. I like that one. Some more I don't knows, equity, fighting Trump, Texas, redistricting. Okay, so I think this is a great representation. I'm hearing there is a group of people that know some of the really large talking points. I'm really interested. These are things I don't know. I don't know. I heard recently how long this redistricting will last. I'm curious, what does that redistricting look like? I'm not really sure what that looks like. And I don't know about you, but I'm a little curious about I know myself, I'm a liberal, left-leaning voter, so I think I want Prop 50, but I don't really know what are the implications, what are the risks, in the most broadest term. And I see heads nodding already. I think we're here because we're all none of us are law experts. It'd be interesting to know, what are the risks? And can we talk about those openly in a way that I can say, I don't know what I don't know, but hopefully James or our moderators do? Okay, last question. What part of Prop 50 do you want to understand most? So what part of Prop 50 do you want to understand most? Again, for me, I'm interested in sort of the risks. What are the scary things? What am I not thinking about? Which is really general. What about you, Talisha? What's on your mind?
Mine's the long lasting. I mean, I know it's temporary, but what if it becomes not temporary?
Yeah, sure. What if this change becomes permanent? Mm-hmm. If you're a liberal, maybe you're a fan of Prop 50, but could that be used against?
Right.
Maybe.
Because I like the independent redistricting. I think we should have independent redistricting everywhere, right? It shouldn't be partisan, all that. It should be independent. I also understand why we're doing it, but that was my first knee-jerk reaction. Was what if we don't get it back?
Right.
What if we don't go back?
Let's read some of these that are coming through. Who drew the maps? Why is California trying to do this? How long will it last? What are those implications if it passes? What's at stake if we don't pass Prop 50? That's really interesting. In the long run, how's it going to affect us? The long-term effects. How does it affect Black and brown communities? I like the specificity and intersectionality of that. The impact of disadvantaged communities. Yeah, these are really relevant. How many people are part of this decision? It's interesting. And again, I'm reading these out loud so we kind of hear them together, and for our different speakers today, getting a sense of what's out there. What precedent does this set? I think that's, again, like the fifth question we've seen here, understanding like, if we vote this through, then what happens? What happens, and what are some of those worst case scenarios? That might be something for the moderators, but I like these questions. So Monty, Lauren, get those wheels turning. Will other states respond or react? That's a wonderful question as well. What kind of precedent does this set, right? Again, what happens next? I thought we all agreed gerrymandering was bad. What about encouraging a practice that has historically been used by white supremacists to disenfranchise the already marginalized? Ooh, hot button, I like it. Yeah. Slippery slope to constant gerrymandering. Yeah, I think we've all had these thoughts, and I just want to remind everyone, there's a judgment-free zone, right? Like, we're gonna break into a larger group later. One of our tenets here at Hobson Talks is, and you can agree or disagree with this, that's okay. I think it's really more interesting to talk about where we agree. Let's bring up where we disagree, but then let's double down on what we agree on, because as a community, I think we're gonna get that much more further together. If we can find like, where do we overlap, but let's acknowledge where we disagree, and let's like sort those things out. So hopefully we can do that today. Okay, thank you all for participating. I love these live surveys. I love seeing where you guys are. Without further ado, before we bring on James, I'm gonna introduce Keisha Thomas here, who is currently at the school board and running for Fresno City Council District 3. She's gonna tell you a bit about her race, and then we'll move on to our speakers. Hey, Keisha.
Oh, I'm on the Fresno Oprah show. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the invite. You all are always amazing. I'm trying to figure out how to make this work. I'm gonna drop the mic already. It's okay. No. Let's leave it here.
Oh, you like
We're
that?
good. Yes. I'll speak loud enough. Everybody hear me okay? I can't hear you. Yeah. There we go. This is supposed to be a hype moment. We're actually learning something about a proposition that is important to how we move forward in the next 4 or 5 years, right? So this is a really important space. I am Keisha Thomas. I am your board member for Fresno Unified School District, Area 1, which is also District 3, and that is the city council seat that I am seeking now. So I want to, first, I am really excited and proud to be introducing our next guest. But what I want you all to remember, this is a nonpartisan proposition. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or Democrat or whatever you choose. It's about being right. And that's the most important part of politics, is being right. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as you're doing what's right for your community and what's right for the people that live in our fishbowl, right? So, with no further ado, I would like to introduce my good friend James to the stage. And again, remember, this is nonpartisan. He has nothing to do with it. He's only giving us information. Don't shoot the messenger, okay? Welcome, James, please. Give him a hand.
Thank you, Keisha. Remember, we've got an election next year. We've got our candidates here. It's your opportunity to get out there and vote for your candidates. So, happens to be me too. But we're going to be talking today about Prop 50. I'm James Coos, your Fresno County Clerk, Registrar of Voters. And I'm going to give you a little bit of background on Fresno, but then we're going to be jumping into the Prop 50 information, and we'll be answering some of the questions just right in here, but also questions that you have out there, which is what I've just done there. So Fresno County has 530,000 active registered voters right now. We sent out that many ballots last Monday, and we've actually sent out additional ballots since then. If you re-register in any way, if you update your address, if you change your name, I'm going to send you a second ballot. For this election, which one you vote, as long as you get them, is probably okay. We will only let you vote one. In other elections, if you change your address, you should be voting the second one, because that's your jurisdictions, those are your representatives. So that's why we send you 2 ballots. I have sent someone 3 and even 4 ballots, because they apparently love going to the DMV and do it every week during the election period. But I will, the law tells me that I have to do this, we're going to do that. 530,000 is actually a record high for Fresno County. We've never had this many registered voters before. This is actually higher than last year during the November presidential general election, and that is actually a little weird. Usually after a presidential election, it goes down. The rolls naturally clean themselves a little bit after that election because we are sending out so many ballots, so many informational postcards that they get bounce backs. And whenever I get a bounce back, I try to clean the address up. I want good addresses. And so I will notify someone that I can't reach them, but I'm going to stop sending them mail after that notification until I get a new good address for them. So usually that active number comes down and then builds back up to the next presidential, but it's stayed constant. Our registrations have continued since then and have been very constant, and that's a great thing over the last 6 months to see continuing registrations in that way. We are a California Voters Choice Act county. That means you have vote centers where you can vote at any location in Fresno County rather than at your neighborhood school or church as we did prior to 2019. There are lots of advantages for the voters in that. There is some, you talk to our older voters, they remember and loved walking down to the corner to be able to vote right there, and they voted with their neighbors, they knew who they were voting with. Even before we went to the Voters' Choice Act, that didn't happen anymore. We have so many requirements for language and other support that we've never, in the last 20 years, been able to provide that kind of nostalgic voting experience. So switching over to the Voters' Choice Act, we're able to provide a better service for every voter at every location. You can be living here in District 1, but you can go vote in Coalinga and you're going to get your District 1 ballot in Coalinga. That didn't happen before. You would have gotten the Coalinga ballot and you can't vote on the Coalinga ballot, but we'd count what we could on that. So you'd be partially disenfranchised doing that. So that's a lot better process there. Other things that we're doing right now for candidates, real important stuff out there, live VBMs. I mail every one of those 530,000 voters, we mail you a vote by mail ballot. You can actually bring that ballot in and count it through the tabulator at one of our vote centers now. You don't have to mail it back if you don't want to. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. You get to fill it out at home, but then go have it counted for you right in front of you at that vote center. Still got to wait in line, still got to sign in. You always have to sign before your ballot will be counted. So, and one really for our candidates out there, the expanded cure process. If you do return your vote by mail ballot and we can't match the signature, we're going to challenge that. But you have an opportunity as a voter to cure that, and I will reach out. I'll tell you right now, we're one of the strictest counties in the state, but we also cure 50% of those initial challenges, and a lot of that is candidates getting out there and doing the work to help their voters have their ballots counted. You know, we're going to continually review every one of those challenges out there, but that expanded cure process is a great opportunity for our voters. For the upcoming statewide special election, it isn't just Prop 50 in Fresno County. We do have another thing on the ballot for 500 people. For the other 500,000, all you have is Prop 50. But Delray Community Service District already had an election scheduled. They have a vacancy on their board, and so they're voting for that board seat for this election. Worked out as a great deal for them. While the state is paying us $4 million to run this special election, it's meant that Delray doesn't have to pay me $25,000 to run their special election. It's only going to work out to be about $2,000 for them. There's some things that they have to pay for to begin with. But a great deal for Delray. We do have 26 vote centers, and that is important to note. That is half as many as we usually put out for a major election. I don't like that, but I was only given 75 days to do this. And there's just no way to get the locations, and more importantly, to get the people in to man those locations. So we tried to do more than is what's necessary. We're actually providing 50% more than is legally required for the special election. Should have been 18 locations, we're providing 26. And we're actually open longer than necessary. The law says I only need to be open on election day. We're not doing that. We're going to have vote centers open the regular amount of time. So we've got 9 10-day vote centers and also 17 that are going to be open for 4 days. So lots of in-person voting opportunities that we've tried to make sure are spread throughout the county there. These are our vote centers. They're small, I'm sorry, but go online and take a look. We've got this map right here online. We also have an online app at votefresnocounty.com where you can look and see where the nearest vote center or drop box is to whatever you want to do. So if you're going to school, if you're going to work, if you're going to go grocery shopping, but you've got your ballot and you want to drop it off, go look up and see where it is.
So this is the ballot I got in the mail. I can take it to any of these places.
Any of these locations, yes. So your vote by mail ballot, you can take to any of these locations. You can put it in the post office and have it returned that way. I got you in just a second. The one thing I will say for the post office, you're gonna return your ballot by mail, please do it early. And if you wait until the last minute, which far too many of our Fresno County voters do, there's no reason to this time. There's no candidates are going to have a meltdown or something in the last weekend. It just, once you figure out, fill it out and return it, please. If you wait until the last minute, please go inside the post office and get it postmarked in front of you right there. Don't put it in the blue box. Postal Service has basically told us they will not be postmarking anything that day. If you put it in the blue box, your ballot is at risk. Question? Yep.
You said there's going to be less vote centers and drop boxes. Were there any significant changes? So like a traditional spot that no longer is there, or something significant that is there that we should be aware of?
So we don't have any really new locations. So we did, of the 26, 25 of them are the same as before, and the 26th is just replacing an unavailable one in that same area. So we do have a new location in Coalinga where we've gone from the Park and Recs district to the community college district. So we're still in the community of Coalinga. And we have tried to continue a spread. So we go from Firebaugh, Coalinga, we're in Prather and Bear Mountain. So we're east and west, all of that still. We do have locations throughout the city of Fresno. We do have a little bit, I will admit, there's a bit of a hole, I'd say about Bullard and Blackstone or so, where we have historically worked at the Bullard and Hoover high schools in the last few years. Schools are great partners, but they have plans, and when you tell them just a few weeks ahead of time that we want their space, that can be a real issue, and so we didn't push it with them. We worked with partners that got back to us real quickly there, and so we're not at Fresno City College. It's the schools that are kind of the one area, but we do have our spread throughout the city, throughout Clovis, throughout the county. All of our locations are the same. There's no new ones there. It's basically just half as dense, and that is not optimal, but when I look at some of our other counties around that are operating at 1/3 level versus our 50%, I'm happy that we're able to provide what we can.
I have a question.
Another question up front.
My father has dementia, but he has a lot of moments of clarity and he's very opinionated about who believes should be in office and certain things. Can he legally vote? And his hand is very shaky. If I understood right, you check the signatures, and his hand is so shaky now. Would that be a problem?
So the question there was about her father advancing into dementia, and so questions about capability there, but then also physical capability, whether the signature, does that matter? What issues can come up there? Mental incompetence is a legal situation where we will cancel a voter, but I must have a court order of that legal incompetence. So if you, the family, feel that your father maybe shouldn't be voting anymore, you actually have to have a legal ruling on that before we will cancel your father for that reason. Otherwise, I will continue to send, if he's a registered voter, I'll be sending him his ballot and continue to do that until I receive that notice. But that is one of the reasons why I'm legally allowed to remove someone, but only when I receive that order. Now, when you are signing your vote by mail ballot on the envelope, we actually have an example in back that Monty has brought there where you can take a look at that. We can use any signature in your registration history, and by California law, I'm required to assume that the signature is yours. And so I need to look and see, are there any gross discrepancies? Now, when we have a manual dexterity issue begin to develop, that could be a significant discrepancy between the current signature and what is in that record. In those situations, if you know that your signature has changed, your family member's signature is changing, go and do a new registration card. I believe Monty has them in the back there. And I recommend a paper registration where you're signing with a pen on that paper, because that gives us our best match to the envelope and what's current right now. It happens. Back in 2018, my signature was challenged by my own staff. I was directly overseeing that program. And they brought it to me and said, is this your envelope? We're challenging it. Because I had registered once when I turned 18, and I'm not 18 anymore, and my signature had changed, and they challenged it. And that can happen you become a professional, and now you're signing your name 1,000 times a day, your signature changes. Over the course of being a high schooler, that's a big area where we have a concern with our younger voters. They register with a signature, oftentimes text, and then 3-4 years later, they vote for the first time, and now they do a cursive signature. Can't compare those. So signatures are a very important question now.
My father gave me power of attorney because he knew that he was getting dementia. Can I sign for him and send a copy?
No, power of attorney does not give you the right to sign for the voter. The voter is still responsible. That's one thing. You do need to get that you have to get that ruling of mental incompetence to be able to end up with a cancellation there.
Okay, thank you.
Just a quick follow-up to that signature topic. Do you share signature file data with other county clerks in other California counties?
So the question there was, do I share signature file data with other counties? No, but yes. So the actual holder of all registration data in California is the state. There is a computerized registration system. It's called VoteCal, and we all work with it. We maintain our section of VoteCal and review it constantly, but when you register online, you're registering with VoteCal, who then sends it down to us. We verify, yes, that is a Fresno County address, they're good to go. If you move to another county, that county can pull your information from Fresno, or if we be notified, in fact, we just got a whole bunch of return envelopes or VBMs returned to us as undeliverable, move to another county, I'm going to push that data to the other county. So yes, I do share those histories that way. But if Madera were to call me right now and say, hey, is so-and-so a Fresno County resident, can I see their signature? No. And if their DA calls and asks that, I will say, well, give me a subpoena and yes, but otherwise no.
Thank you.
Another question before we get into Prop 50 here.
So you talked a little bit about the curing process and how frequent that can be. What does that process look like?
So when we challenge a signature, whether it be because you didn't sign or we have a question about the signature itself, oftentimes very innocent. We have husband and wife interchanges, husband interchange. We have all of that stuff all the time. We send you a letter because the mailing address is the one place I'm absolutely certain where I have a contact point with that voter. And we send a notice saying, hey, we're challenging your ballot. You can cure it by signing here. Fill out this form, return it free of charge. So self-addressed stamp it and return envelope. We do that right away. So we were processing 10,000 ballots that we received through the mail this morning. If any of those were challenged or reached the final challenge status, I don't think they would today, though tomorrow they will be. We'll be mailing out tomorrow notices of those challenges. And that voter has until 2 days before certification, which for this election will be Sunday, November 30th. Get a little frustrated there that I have to have staff working on the Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend to receive those. We can process them the next day, but they have to be received by me by 5 p.m. So we tell the voter all of that information. We actually have options online where the voter can return it that way. They can also, any of the candidates, campaigns can actually go out and get that information from us and do that. We will call a voter, we will email a voter if we have that information. Only about 40% of all voters have either one of those, so we try to do as much outreach as we can. And that's why we get over a 50% cure rate, which is high. So we go high on the number of challenges, but then we also go high on the cures, which is a good balance, trying to kind of meet both sides of the equation there. Let's talk about Prop 50. Something that really popped up really kind of quickly there. There was some discussion out on the national stage, and so our governor and legislature came up with this idea of how to go about doing this change. And it's not just a simple proposition. It actually took quite a bit of legal wrangling on their part. One good thing is the legislature makes laws. So whenever someone says, but this is an illegal thing, you can't, they make the laws as long as they pass them correctly and follow the rules. Yes, it is legal. And for that reason, the courts have actually rejected any type of legal challenge to it at this point. There are 3 bills that were passed to get Prop 50 really working, and actually there was a 4th one afterwards to do a little cleanup. First is ACA 8. That's Assembly Constitutional Amendment 8. And should actually go, wait, that means that the Assembly was looking to do 7 other constitutional amendments. Yes, they do them every year. A few of them make it to the propositions like this one did. To do a constitutional amendment, there must be a supermajority vote by both houses. So for ACA 8 to pass, 2/3 had to vote in the Assembly and 2/3 in the Senate. So the proposition itself is only a 50% majority passage, but at the legislature, it did require a supermajority. And that's true whenever we're kind of dealing with constitutional changes. There's a higher bar that needs to be met. If you do an initiative that is looking to change the state constitution, you have to bring in another 50% more signatures than you would for a basic proposition. The second bill that's up there, Senate Bill 280, is actually the bill that lays out kind of the rules of the election, something they had to do because they were doing this with only 75 days before the election. By law, a proposition can only be added to the ballot 131 days beforehand. So they had to pass a law to make 75 days beforehand legal. So I'm saying, they're the legislature. They can make the laws, they can torque them a little bit to make things work. This also is where they said they will pay us, which is something I very much appreciate. And it is one of the things that in my position, I have been very lucky over the last 5 years. I am running to keep and continue doing this. I guess it's been 4 years now, so another year in. That I have the opportunity to work with our legislature and to provide feedback like, you need to make it possible for our local elections to be consolidated with this one so that Del Rey received those savings. It had to be in this bill here for that to be allowed, because we were past the deadline for Del Rey to ask for that service. It had to be in the bill to pay us. Right? It had to be in the bill for what the number of vote centers that you had to provide. So they asked us about that. I was, as I said, lucky enough to be able part of that team that worked on that. Something I've been able to build up over the last few years. Assembly Bill 604 is very important because it does what the proposition asks. And the questions you're asking, what was the proposition do? It actually doesn't redistrict. Proposition 50 does not redistrict the congressional districts. What it says is that for 2026, 2028, and 2030, a different redistricting done by the legislature will be in place instead of the one that was done by the Independent Redistricting Commission following the 2020 census. And that after the next census in 2030 occurs, then the Redistricting Commission gets to do the redistricting again. They receive, the power is returned to them. But for the next 3 elections, the legislature has the right to do redistricting, and Assembly Bill 604 is where that redistricting actually has been done. They didn't have to do this, but frankly, I would be opposed to the Proposition 50 if they didn't. They have done this so you can see what are they going to put in play. I've been given these lines, you're going to see them. You got a question about what does the redistricting look like, you're about to see it. All right, but this is the actual redistricting here. Unless you know exactly what you're looking for, I don't recommend trying to read 604. It is 200 pages long, describing by census tract what is in each congressional district following the redistricting. But it's there and available. Question?
So, with 604, is there a possibility that we'll have 3 more or 2 more redistricting happening by the legislatures? Or is this going to be something that's changed and then when it returns back to where we are now in 2030?
So it won't return to what we have now in 2030, but the Citizens Redistricting Board will go through their regular process to make new lines after the 2030 census, so definitely there. There is not a prohibition against it, as I remember, but it's already problematic to do once. We had a question earlier about who did the lines, and that's still a little unclear about who made these lines, but it was a legislative leadership. I will say that it is unlikely that they would do it again, but that isn't strictly prohibited if I remember correctly. But that's in 280 in the Assembly bill. The phrasing of it is, we'll redistrict it once, but yeah, but it's not really saying that they won't be redistricting. Now you're all thinking, well, do I really want? Okay. This is what Proposition 50 looks like on your ballot. Right? It's a little small, but I do want to highlight for Fresno County, we are doing a bilingual ballot for this election. It's got a yes and no. There is no way for that yes and no to be visible through the envelope, through any type of holes or anything else. Yes, there are holes in my envelopes, but they are signature guides and they are covered by the flap of the envelope when you properly close and seal it. So it's not visible there. The ballots, when you receive them, also are folded so that the actual voting targets there are inside when you put it back in, but people change stuff up, so can't promise that. What is that? That's a little tiny text there, so let me blow it up a little bigger for you there. So it's got its title, and then it says, hey, what does it actually do? Well, it requires new temporary. So again, the emphasis is on this is only applicable for 2026, 2028, and 2030, and then the power goes back to the Independent Redistricting Commission to make new lines. I've got you. So it says it right there, going back to it. It also includes in there that, glad we're not outside and doing this out there. Yeah. It does have something in there, and this is just kind of a little extra, that the whole country should have independent redistricting commissions. Most of them don't. And that's why other states have been able to make changes much faster and without having to do an election like we are. Question?
How many districts are there currently, and how many districts are they going to make with this redistricting?
So they're actually not making any additional districts.
They're just changing.
The number is consistent. It's based on at the census, and then they split out based on equal amounts. That, so where we lost, the state lost a few following the last census, this redistricting will not change the absolute number. But as you'll see, it does make some changes and number-wise that have effects, say, locally.
Can you repeat your question?
Sorry, the question there was, how does this redistricting, does it increase or decrease? Does it change the number of congressional districts? And no, it does not change. The House of Representatives is set at a specific number and basically doled out percentage-wise. The small states, really small states, get one, and then the rest kind of spread out and do the rest. Fiscal impact up here is the actual fiscal impact if Prop 50 passes. You may have seen the number out there. The election itself is about $250 million. The impact, if it passes, is another couple $1 million. And that's going to be money that the counties or the Secretary of State have to spend in the redistricting process. If it passes, candidates, please be aware, your signatures in lieu of filing fee period will actually be moved from December 11th to December 19th. So 8 days that they're kind of delaying the start of the June election. So I get 8 days to do all of this work. That's basically what they're saying there. Thanks a lot, legislature. We're already prepared. We've already got the lines. These are the old lines, but you're gonna see on the next slide. We've got the new lines already. We've already got them in play. They're just not being used. We've got them into the computer already. So we'll use those 3 weeks between when we have the certification of this special election and the opening of activities for the June election to put those in play and double check everything, make sure all the lines were put in correctly, all the precincts were reassigned, which will take a little bit of work, not as bad as I thought, but it's gonna be a bit. These are our current lines. While it may look like there's 5 congressional districts up there, there are actually only 4. Fresno County is represented by 4 congressional districts. The little tiny bit right here in North Fresno actually ties in, that's part of the McClintock district, that is the far eastern portion of the county as well. McClintock district goes north across the foothills all the way up to the east side of Sacramento. Okay. Goes all the way up. Right here, that's the Fong district, used to be McCarthy, goes south to Kern County. So it goes along the foothills south and then kind of swings in there. It does capture some of the Tulare and even all the way over into Kings County. We had a little talk about gerrymandering before. The actual term gerrymandering isn't so much the change or redistricting of districts, but creating really funky shaped, long, snaking things that don't make real sense politically, geography. They're intended to manipulate the process. One can argue that even now that district is a little gerrymandered. It kind of looks like a reverse E. It's got these kind of wings and it's sticking out. So when we talk about the word gerrymandering, we can have the general discussion of making redistricting for political reasons, which is what we're doing now. But there's even worse. There's some really wonderful examples of it from mostly back east, where they follow a freeway for like 100 miles with a little bit coming out here and a little bit there. Just, yeah, really bad examples. We do have the Costa district right here, which goes down into Kings and Tulare counties. And then way over here, basically all of the western end of the county is now the Gray district going north, very competitive. If any of you worked on that or watched that one, it went down to the last day last year and was only won by under 200 votes.
Where are we right now? Right up there, yeah.
A little higher. These are the new lines. Now, if you look at those, there actually are 6 on there. So while I said that there aren't any new congressional districts across the state, they're just kind of moving around. For Fresno County, we got some new stuff. We go from having 4 representatives to potentially having 6 representatives. All right. We still have the McClintock district, the district that is currently the McClintock district, going northwards there. Now basically the big majority chunk of the foothills and eastern Fresno County. And we still have the Fong district, but now that district has less of central Fresno, or north central Fresno, and it's mostly Clovis and swinging around south again. Still have the Costa district, all right? But the Costa district has pretty much lost its western edge right here, because the Gray district has been split in 3. It's still there. This little toe right up there at the top toe of the boot, which has Firebaugh and the city of Mendota in them, that is still in Congressman Gray's district. That district now goes all the way up to Stockton. So it's picking up more of Stockton and thus becomes a more favorable to a Democratic candidate. I should note that those first three I mentioned, the McClintock district is more Republican, the Fong district is more Republican, and the Costa district is just barely more Democratic. In the middle right here is the Valadeo district. Valadeo is back representing, potentially, the western portion of the county. So during the redistricting 5 years ago, that district went purely southward and cut out Fresno County, whereas before it had come in very similarly coming in that way. Well, they're back. That district is more Democratic. That district already is Democratic, but that's okay. One of the questions earlier, what are the risks of all this? It's all still politics. You still have to run a campaign. You still have to do everything. You can still lose even if the registration is favorable to you in a district. So all these changes, some may say manipulation, some whatever, none of it is guaranteed until you go out and you actually vote. The biggest change really is this little part down here, the soul of the boot. Everything west of Fresno County is now in District 18, which goes up to the south end of San Jose. I could not tell you who that representative is off the top of my head because we have never had any interaction with them before. So that's a brand new kind of tie-in. And I know that some of our local politicians have said, oh, we've got people from the Bay Area who don't know anything about, no, that's not true. We've always had, McClintock district covers more than a half dozen counties. So you do have, you can never say that unless it's like just Fresno County, which would make some sense if they actually did it, there should be like one district covering us, that'd be good. A question at the back.
Are these maps available on the county website if you wanted to see the proposed kind of redistricting lines?
They aren't, but we can provide them to you. They are available at the California legislature and several other sources out there that have them up and available. I believe Cal Matters has them available. League of Women Voters may have them as well. But we can also provide these. This is a comparison of the two, by the way, so you can see that some of the lines actually are the same. That's a big time saver for me, but yeah. Question?
Is it possible to get this information to our humble host over there so he can distribute it out at not appropriate?
Yes.
Happy to post and share links, all the things, yeah.
Yeah. None of this is confidential stuff. You're good to go. So happy to share that there. Question over here.
So the effects of this proposition will last until 2030. Is that correct? We have a governor race next year. So if that happens to flip, this could, if you're a Democrat, let's say, this could all end up not in our favor, right?
So the question there was, this is scheduled, if Prop 50 passes, the changes that go into effect would stay in effect through 2030. What if there's a change in the governor's office? Could things be changed there? Probably not, because you have to go through the legislature. And so while the governor is a big supporter of Prop 50 and a big push behind it from the governor's office, remember to make this change, you had to go through the legislature and you had to get a 66% passage in both houses. You can do that right now because those houses are a supermajority Democrat constituency. A change or reversal of Prop 50 would not come out of the legislature realistically in the next 6 years. That level of change is not possible.
That'd be a proposition that would be unlikely to be found in funding.
Yeah, you could have an initiative. There's always a citizens initiative opportunity out there. We've got them all the time. We've got an assembly member running one right now because he couldn't get a bill passed through the legislature. But so keep an eye out at your Walmart, your supermarket, or elsewhere. They are out there and available. Although that just makes more work for me later on. But it is your right as a citizen to participate in those. Your signature will be checked on those as well. Signature is important. Make sure you've got a good one. That's how we get it. We check all of that. I have probably gone long because I always go long because I am an election nerd and I love all this stuff. It does wrap up there. I do have some other slides that we're not going to worry about because they're not Prop 50 stuff. So, any other kind of big questions there about Prop 50 or other stuff?
On that earlier question, ACA 8 only allows the one redistricting, so they would have to do another one.
Yeah.
They can do another, but.
Yeah, so some clarification there that, and like, as I said, those three of them kind of all together, and so it's allowing a single redistricting by the legislature. It's really kind of by anyone there. But yeah, the legislature has passed it, and until it is approved by you or not approved by you, those lines don't come into play. These are imaginary. Oh, sorry. No, you're fine. Sorry about messing that up. Those lines are imaginary until December 2nd. Although I know in Fresno County, we're going to have our results pretty well matched up. I can't close things up though, because part of that Senate bill said I can't certify until December 2nd, which is not something I like because this is a relatively simple one that we can kind of get done earlier than that. I should say, going back to that cure idea, while many counties will actually certify earlier because they're done with their process, historically Fresno County, even if we are done for a November election like this, before Thanksgiving, will continue to stay open as long as possible to allow those cures. Even if that's the only thing we have left, we will stay open to keep the election open and non-certified to allow those cures to come in. Sometimes I get pushback. Why didn't you have results earlier? Because I want to give the voters a chance to have their ballot counted and their voice heard.
James, I wanted to invite you to, maybe we can look through this list and take maybe 2 or 3 questions from the audience. Does anybody want to shout one out, or we don't get a volunteer? James?
Who drew the maps?
Who drew the maps? So again, that goes back to the legislative leadership. Now, who drew the maps for them? Yeah, I'd seen stuff even 2 weeks earlier that didn't end up matching the final one. So yeah, there were people playing around with that for a little while there. But yes, it was through the legislative
Is it
leadership.
documented somewhere, even if you don't know off the top of your head? Citizens United for screwing over McClintock? You know,
We can tell them to issue the results, but it's going to be some nerd work.
Yeah, it's going to be, it'd be, as I mentioned, with that AB 608, they got down and got the lines in dirty. It really was someone sitting down with the GIS and really kind of playing with it and stuff. It is very impressive how equal they kept them. They were very, they really approached it from a political standpoint. What was the political distribution within them? But also they made sure to follow the person count requirement. Most of them are within plus or minus one voter or one person. So they put a lot of work in balancing out those census tracts, which really kind of digging in.
What is there criteria they use for how they district?
So the question was, what was the criteria with that entry? So there's basic criteria, but did they follow the same criteria as the redistricting, the independent redistricting? Well, obviously not quite. They can't really because they came up with different lines. Although I do have to say that the Independent Redistricting Commission, they have a lot of criteria to go through, so they could very easily, and do during the process, have a lot of different lines. They'll have different versions throughout their process. You can actually look on the, We Draw the Lines is the website for that. You can actually see some of the older versions they have in there. So it's constantly changing. And every one of those versions was technically legal. So there's a lot of options and ways for them to do that. So did they use the exact same rules, same criteria as the commission? No.
One of the sort of criticisms that I've heard, and I mean I've heard even prior to this about redistricting, is from local leaders and officials who will say, well, this is splitting up my constituency across multiple congressional districts or across multiple leaders at a higher level, rather than keeping place. But isn't that true regardless? Like, isn't there going to be some amount of cutting cities in half, cutting tips off of those and doing that regardless of whether it's a special election or not?
So the question there was about redistricting, and that one of the complaints about this specific redistricting is that it does fragment some community groups or communities of interest is one of the terms that in particular is used with the Independent Redistricting Commission, but also jurisdictions like the cities. We see an example of that where the city of Clovis under the new lines will actually have 3 representatives just for the city of Clovis. City of Fresno, well, yeah, right now we've got basically 4 already. So the city of Fresno is all broken up already. But so that is a valid complaint to say, yes, these new lines are breaking up communities a bit more, and that one of the criteria that actually, going back to your question, of the Citizens Redistricting Commission does use, and in particular for lower independent redistricting commissions under the California Voters' Rights Act, must consider those communities of interest. The state level, it's a bit more nebulous, but when you get down to the local level, you have to consider neighborhoods and ethnic communities. It gets a little complicated how you qualify and stuff, and actually neighborhoods is something they actually prefer to work with. They try to not split those up. You want those communities, when possible, to be represented by one person that can learn about them and not be asking 3 people to, oh, I've only got 1,000 of you, so I'm going to give you 1/500th of my attention. It's kind of that's where kind of that complaint comes from. And then when you're breaking up a community that way, that is happening. It happens with any redistricting to a point. Because of how quickly this was done, there wasn't that much feedback. So the Citizens Redistricting Commission had a whole series of feedback loops that occurred where we got feedback, or where the commission got feedback. I was not part of it. From communities that were concerned. So there were people in Clovis and some parts of Fresno that complained about earlier versions of the redistricting, saying, hey, you've split me off from these neighborhoods or this area that I was represented by before. I want to be with that grouping because they have similar needs to me. So, yes, kind of a valid concern. But there's also, on the flip side, you have kind of political concerns where there are parts of Clovis that don't vote the same way as the rest of Clovis, and them being represented by maybe their current representation means that their voices are lost.
James, would you be willing to give us a little, maybe small mini political science lesson and help me understand how having district representatives help pass laws within the state of California? Maybe the question is, if you could summarize what California and Newsom's strategy is in redistricting these spaces?
So you've got 2 different sides there. We are a Republican form of government where you vote for your representative at the city, county, or state level. Those representatives, in theory, mean that you can have, for instance, in the legislature, 80 people work together and come to a consensus about a law, each of those 80 representing 125,000 or so people. It's more than that, but I'm off on my numbers. But pulling that
Lots of people.
Yes, lots of people. Sometimes that makes a lot of sense. Sometimes you get weird things like the supervisors in LA County each represent like a city of Fresno, or a county of Fresno. Each one of those supervisors does like more than the whole county. But it's a way of having an organized governance where you don't have millions of people talking over each other. So direct democracy can be really impressive and incredible. And we can see that in social media, but you can also see some of the negatives of direct democracy there, where one voice can be picked up and then suddenly become magnified and not really have a great result there. Why was this even put on here? There was a request at the national level for other states to do some redistricting that would specifically favor one party. And this was specifically directed at Texas, but there are other states that have now looked at this or are moving forward with this. North Carolina is currently looking at doing a redistricting as we speak. And basically, the governor decided to play chicken a little bit with the state of Texas in particular and said, hey, we're going to put this on. And if you actually look in ACA 8 says this does not count if Texas doesn't redistrict. If another state doesn't redistrict first, we won't redistrict. So we'll do a $250 million election, but it does not go into effect unless another state redistricts. Texas is already redistricted, so we're in play. Another hand? Another hand there.
So this is not with 50, this has to do with your office. So please verify, you mentioned earlier about the kickbacks, where you send out a piece of mail that comes back to you. Did you go through the process? Is that general practice, or is there anything specifically being done out of your office, sending out communications to addresses, making people respond back, or being taken off the roll as it happens in other states?
All of those communications, California is very protective of your registration. So one thing I'll tell you right now, and this actually can come back to bite me sometimes, your registration is permanent in California unless you meet specific criteria. One of those criteria happens to be if I lose touch with you. So I get one of those kickbacks, a bounce back, an undeliverable piece of mail, notification from the US Postal Service that you've moved, that the address I have on file is not valid anymore. I do not cancel a voter for that. They get moved to a status called inactive, and I provide a notification. That notification will tell the voter, if you do not participate within the next 2 federal general elections, sometime between 27 and 48 months, you could be canceled. And federal law now basically says I have to cancel. The Supreme Court has made a ruling that says if I've sent that notice and if they don't reply, I do need to cancel them. So all of these actions I do are strictly outlined in state code. That one particularly is a federal code, but we're doing that. I do not send out any notice to a regular active voter that says, if you don't respond to me, I'm going to kick you off. And that is something that some states do. But California law says I can't do anything like that. I do mail your BBM. I do mail a county voter information guide for most elections. We do not have one for this one. The information from the county voter information guide is part of your vote by mail packet. I do mail out some postcards with information about vote centers and your options for voting. That's part of the VCA that I'm required to do that. If any of those gets bounced back to me, then I have to by law start sending notices and actions. If you re-register, I will send you a notice informing you of your re-registration and what the new information is so that you can verify that. If that gets bounced back to me, then we have to take action. I now receive automatic updates, and this is only over the last 4 years or so, from the California Department of Health. If you pass away, if someone passes away in the state of California, I will hear about it before the family will tell me. And that's a big improvement. Having to dig through obituaries in the past, we're still finding people that were missed 15 and 17 years ago because the information didn't match up. And that's always a challenge when someone tells me, you've been sending me a vote by mail ballot for my mother for 15 years. This is all a scam and I don't trust your system. If you had returned it once, I could have followed the rules and removed her and not have sent that. We could save taxpayer money. You wouldn't have been tempted to vote twice. Lots of things. Please don't vote twice. I will turn you into the district attorney. I will do it. I may not be able to stop you all the time, but I will turn you in.
Let's take one more question.
Measure B is probably going to be on the ballot again in 2028. It's for the libraries. Is that going to cause problems now that we're using libraries as voting centers?
That's a 2028 question. No, it actually is a very good question. So the question there was about Measure B, which is a local measure that currently provides extra funding, and it's actually a majority of funding for the county library system and the Coalinga Huron library system. So those two systems are receiving a big chunk of money from that Measure B. It should be on, it may actually be on in 26, it could come as early as next year, but we are expecting it. And yes, it will become an interesting question for us on how we do that. At the very least, they won't be allowed to put up any yes on B, no electioneering, anything along those lines there. It is a question that comes up. I wouldn't, for Measure C, if, when that comes up again, I would not hold one over in their conference room or anything like that. But it's going to be a fun one because the libraries have to say, love the libraries, wonderful partners. It'll be a challenge.
Okay, thank you, James. This is great. Let's give him a round of applause. Okay, so we will break in just a minute, but I'm going to ask Lauren Hubbard to come up real quick, introduce himself, and he will segue us into the next section. James, thanks again. That was super informative. He's going to be around for just a little longer, so if there's anything you didn't remember from his talk or you want to ask again, he is here for that. Lauren, come on up.
Awesome. Thank you, Sebastian.
It's a tricky one.
Not kidding. My name is Lauren Hubbard, and I am a husband, a father of 3, obviously a lover of snacks and the provider of your snacks today, so thank you. Hope you enjoy those.
Yeah, we do.
I am here's my title. I am the Central Valley Political Coordinator for SEIU, and we have been phone banking and canvassing in Fresno County, Tulare County, Kern County, Madera County, and Merced County for the last 2 months about Prop 50. And so I will be moderating the Yes on Prop 50. And I'm also a candidate for Congress. So this
Tell us
actually
about
it really is right in my bailiwick here. So I will be running to represent the 21st Congressional District, which is right here, city of Fresno, a little bit of North Visalia, currently represented by Jim Costa for the last 20 so years. And so I am ready to bring new blood to that seat, and hope to talk to you guys about that after we get done with the here and now. But let's take a break.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
5 minutes, because I need a beer. I'm sure you need another beer. And thank you, James, for giving us that presentation. And take your break.
Yeah, thank you.